Hey everybody. So, what a difference a couple of days make, right? So we saw some major bottoms here, and especially in the NASDAQ, and we're going to get into that today. Everything's going to be in alphabetical order. As always, what we do in this video is we run through what transpired today. We look at what our game plan was for the day, and then we look at the most actionable ideas, and we get them together, and then we figure out what we're going to do Monday about it. Obviously, we're going to have to wait till Monday now because this is Friday. I also put together in the newsletter 4 stocks that we should be looking at purchasing. And if you don't get the newsletter, just click for it. It's in the bio. But even if you're not interested in that, what we go over here is extremely time sensitive. So looking at this video a week from now is not really relevant. So just keep that in mind when you look at this. It's the kind of the way that we go about it and trying to teach people and educate people on what it takes to be truly successful as an investor. That said, that's why you want to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so that you're aware when we either go live like tomorrow at 1 o'clock for Saturday Eastern Standard Time, or we went live today at like 8:45. And I may do more of those now, the pre-market ones. People seem to really like that. So that's it. Let's get into it. So to start with, everything's in alphabetical order, including the indexes that I'm going to review. And if you don't see something here, just keep it in mind, and then we'll go through it tomorrow in the long-form live one that we'll be doing. So very simply, what's going on here, AAL, you're seeing American Airlines start to shape up here. And what I really like that's going on is these have been really beaten down, but they're not dropping anymore. They seem to have had enough. And I like that. Now, there's some driving forces here that are going to start happening with this sector. And I just want to point this out. This has broken its downward trend line today and is now trapped between the 21-day and the 50-day. We have a line up here, and I'm not entirely sure why we have that line there. It's probably from way before, but let's just go look at the weekly now that the weeklies are closed and see if we could figure out why we have it there. So we might have it there just because of this wick. So let's just put that back in here. See if that tells us anything. 2280, yep. So that's why, because we want to clear the rest of this wick. If we clear the rest of this wick, you're going to go to the top of this breakdown again. And this was obviously from the pandemic. I do like the fact that you're able to get in American Airlines under the pre-pandemic pricing. There's a lot of stocks that are in the IWM and that are in the casinos that are higher than the pre-pandemic pricing, even though their earnings are nowhere near it. As everybody knows, I am a technical investor and trader, but I do look at fundamentals. Especially you have to when you start looking at American Airlines, because you're dealing with value investors that are buying things like this. But this break today is significant. Now, I don't have great volume, but let's just take a look at something. Yeah, I mean, above average volume on the breakout. It looks great, but I would wait for 2280 and for us to close above that. I'd love for it if it didn't get above that to the end of the week so we could see a weekly close above that. That would be huge, but beggars can't be choosers, so we'll see what we get. And I'm just curious about something. I'm sure the whole space is doing this, yeah. But you see, that didn't break its downward trend yet, right? You can see this trend right here. And it's weaker because we didn't get to the 50-day today. So usually the UAL, I'm just going to run through them real quick. See what I'm saying? Like that got to the 50-day today. Now, when you start looking at these, start looking at the strongest balance sheet ones. So like one of the strongest balance sheet ones, and I'm not saying go out there and buy airlines, but I just want to point this out. Okay, Alaskan Air has one of the strongest balance sheets out there. And it's a good leading airline to just take a look at, because look at this. Okay, you can already see that we have broken. Let me just flip that up there, and we're just going to grab that, put that right here. So you can already see that we're above the 50-day, and we're above this. So if I was going to play an airline, this is usually the one I play. It's usually the one that I look at, and the other one that's got a very strong balance sheet is JetBlue. But overall, the easiest one to play that it makes the most sense to me always is this one, is Alaskan Air. So if you're interested in the airlines, just consider taking a look at this one. Less debt. It gets a tremendous amount of institutional ownership when it starts to move. But AAL looks good, and just look for it to clear that 2280. So Apple, we put in the newsletter today at 127. I just called it out on Twitter. I was very busy trading today. I am working on a system that's going to start being able to deliver these live and then just do a synopsis at the end of the day. So as long as we're set up properly, people who are interested are going to be able to just get the buy recommendations going directly to them in a different way. It's very soon. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts, but putting the newsletter together and then doing the buy alerts during a trading day is not as easy. So it'd be better if I could just do it instantaneous as I was doing, as I was typing it. And I think I found a system that works, and I'll get into it later. But anyway, that's on the horizon, and I think I'm pretty excited about it. But see how we're breaking? We got above the 50-day and closed above the 50-day. I'm not even concerned about this 127.7. So what we did today is very important. Okay, there's a couple things that transpired today that made me put a buy on this. And I'm going to just say it now while we're in the A's so you can understand when we get to the NASDAQ. I personally, yes, we've bottomed. I said this once again in March when we were down here and on the 7th. And yeah, we did trade around and bounce and not come down. I personally think our bottom's in. Now, if I'm wrong, realistically, my stop should be right under this. If it takes out a low, I don't want to be in it. But at this point, I'm willing to start putting money to work. A lot of people say, I'm not worried about catching the bottom. I just want to be right. I agree. I don't want to catch the bottom. I want to be right. The issue that you're having is that this market is turning so fast that if you are not investing during the turn, you're missing the majority of the move. So you're being forced to change the way that you act. So I understand a lot of my old school trader friends who I'm an old school trader. I've been doing it over 20 years. I understand their reluctance, but times change and you need to change with them. And sometimes things work, and then sometimes everybody starts learning something and it no longer works. And you have to be aware of that. So, price is price, and price will never change, right? That's what you need to be aware of. That's why I'm so big on trying to educate with price action and chart patterns versus, looking at this or someone talking about this new cloud or show me the MACD, or someone hit me today with flow analytics. I'm sitting there asking, do you know what a morning star is? Because that's a pattern that's being drafted by human behavior. Human behavior is never going to change in our lifetime, right? We may adapt. We may find something else that we like, the new widget. We might plug our consciousness into the internet. Who the heck knows what's coming, right? But we're still going to have human emotions. And that's what candlesticks are. They are human emotions, and they show it. I don't want to be left out, right? I mean, this is it. I don't want to be left out. Get me back in. Oh God, what did I buy when it opens here? Get me out. Oh, it's going to break the 200. I need to get out. Wait, I got to get back in. I mean, you can almost feel what's transpiring when you look at this versus when you're looking at an indicator, right? So, and as you do this more and more and more, you'll get more familiar with it. But this is why I put it in here. You broke out. You came back down. Here's your morning star. You broke above this. We had nothing but price rejection, but you still had a completed morning star. You broke up over the morning star today. Look at this. So, it's important to be this precise. It pays off, believe me. I'll show you on UPST how it made me money today on the short side, even though the stock went up ballistically. So you see how you are right here? Look where you opened. You just happened to open at the high of those two. So you open at the high, you come down, test it, and then you run. And you ran right over the 50-day. Okay? This is exactly the type of behavior you want to see after bouncing off a 200-day moving average. It's exactly what you want to see. So I could wait, but I could come in and be at 132 on Friday or Monday next week or Tuesday next week. And do I really want to do that? No. I want to get the largest position I possibly can off at the right price with the least amount of risk. You might want to remember that. So from here, I'm expecting us to get through this 127.77 like butter, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to be much problem now at all. I think you're going to see more of a frenzy to get into this because there's a couple other things that are transpiring. But with that said, I think you're going to get to the 21-day. And, let me just do this real quick. I'm not going to do the RSI on it, even though it looks good because we have a ton of ground to cover. I broke the downtrend today. I closed above it. It's the first time we've broken above the downtrend in 2 weeks. That's exactly the kind of behavior you want to see. So that's why that one's in there. So Arete, we're going to spend a little time with. Okay, so when I threw this out there, I threw it out at 103.50. It was probably closer to 104 by the time I got it out, and that's what I'm trying to do with the system. It's going to be way, way faster to get these ideas out to people because this market is fast. And people have been saying to me, I keep getting whipsawed, I keep getting chop suey out there, and it is. Again, I've been doing this over 20 years. This is the fastest rotation market in the past 12 to 18 months I've ever seen. Energies like these sectors, and I think it's social media that's adding to it. People and the not only just social media, but the rampant information that is being thrown at us daily. I really think it's adding to it. But price behavior is price behavior, and we saw that with energy, right? Energy sold off on very negative news for energy prices. They should have gone higher. So Arete, there's a lot of short sellers on this. And the reason that they're short is because she's in high beta names and they're essentially attacking her and saying she's going to have a liquidity crisis. You can't have a liquidity crisis if you're not over leveraged. She's not over leveraged. So there will not be a liquidity crisis. The reason that I was stating to be short this at the time, and I'm no longer stating that I am long this here. I will continue to buy this now. This will be a large position for me because this is a very easy trade, especially if you're looking for something longer term now. And I'm going to explain it. The people that are shorting this don't truly understand that she's not really leveraged. And the way to trigger her is redemptions. If the redemptions stop because the stocks start going higher, she's not going to get redemptions. If she doesn't get redemptions, it doesn't go lower. And frankly, I don't like buying stuff that's below the 200-day. I'm not a fan of it. But when you're this far off the 200-day and you start to bounce, I don't want to wait 10 points on an ETF because it's 10%. Now, if you're looking for more juice, you can look at Planter again, TDoc, Zoom, which I believe we're going to go over today. I know Planter's in here. Of course, Planter took us out and then ran back up. Zoom, we're going to go over. I'm going to go over TDoc as well. And we're really going to run through a bunch of things today, but this is why I put it in. They are the people that are putting out these short letters, that very simply, they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't understand that she's not overly leveraged by any stretch of the imagination. If she had massive redemptions, her stocks would get hit. Okay. If she didn't get inflows, her stocks would get hit. If this market just bases and just starts basing, she's going to start seeing, she's going to start seeing cash flow. And I just want to point something out. See this green volume bar? See this green volume bar? See this red volume bar? See this red volume bar? If you take the last 4 days and you looked what happened in the last 4 days, you have more buying than you have had for how long? Right? See where I'm going with this? So you have all this. If you aggregate the buying, this is the first 4-day window that you've had where you've had this much buying since when? Since back here. Okay. What did we do there? We actually bottomed there and then tried to rally and go higher. So that's what I'm getting at here. You have to look at the whole picture, and I'm very comfortable with this. And I want to just give one quick lesson on this. For those people that are watching it, because some people are trying to understand RSI and how to utilize it. I'm going to give you a great example of it. Oh, that's wrong. I'm going to use this one, and let's get rid of Connors, and I could care less about stochastics. So let's get into this. So what's important about the RSI on this? And let's get really in depth. The very first thing you'll notice is you're at 30, and everybody loves when you get to 30 because they say, oh, it'll stop going down. Well, here you got to 29 on it, right? And that was 103, and then you went to 96 on it. So that really isn't accurate, right? And I state that in that RSI video that we've done on, how to trade like a pro series, and I plan on doing another one this weekend, time permitting. But what is relevant is that when I take out this bottom and I hit this bottom and they're aligned, and then you can kind of go, That could be a kind of a double bottom because we're here, right? And we can just do this for a minute. Let's get rid of all these horizontal lines. And let me just do this because I really just want to focus and explain RSI to you here. So what you're going to see is this, okay? Then we're just looking at the chart. That's all we're doing. See where we are here, right? See where you are here, and then you're at the same level. It's really important now. If you overlay this with it, you broke your trend line on your way up. Not only did you break your trend line, you broke this trend line, right? So now I'm above this bar on the RSI and I'm not there yet. On top of that, when we took out the low here, I didn't take out a new low on RSI. I stayed in line. So you have two separate positive divergences here. You have this divergence where the stock is lower than it is here. And you have this divergence, right, where you're higher here versus here, and you're breaking out of that channel. So there's a lot of signs here that we're bottoming. The amount of negativity that she's receiving is staggering, and I expect this to trade up. Frankly, I said 120, but that's because of this line, and I expect when we get up to this line to keep going. But let's see how it plays out, but that's why that's in the list. So this was one we were asked to take a look at. Let me put the indicators back in. We'll throw in the 3 bells and whistles, and I'm going to just get rid of RSI for now. We'll get back into RSI when we need it. And let's just start going through some of these ideas. There's some decent ideas in here, like Dash, and I don't know that moves over on Dash. We're going to do that one next. So here you are with DAC. Look, you're finally getting over what just transpired, right? And the one thing I would just point out to you, and I think this is pretty relevant, here's Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. So Monday you have your reversal bar, right? You open at the high, you close at the low. You come in the next day hoping your stock's going to go up, and what happens? It doesn't go up. But, right, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, what happens? Today, Friday, we close above all these bodies. That's not a bad spot to be. And we have the first green bar, right? So we're starting to turn here. So you could watch this. If this was something you truly wanted to be in, you could really use the 21 day. You could buy this on a higher high from here. Actually, if you want to get super technical, if you want to be in this, and this is kind of a slow mover, so I don't know that I'm going to be crazy about it, but get above this 59.43 and then just use the 21 day as your stop. And this is extremely actionable and probably takes you back into this channel. And then you probably could see this channel from here, but we're just going to draw it real quick anyway. So let's just put it here, right? You can see where I'm going with this. So this can get you to $74, $75. I'm just not crazy about the volume. I'd like to see more volume out of it, but it is actionable. So Dash, the earnings were substantial. We talked about this before. There was a classic undercut here of the double bottom, and then we did it again, and then it rallied and failed. Traded down. Earnings were exceptional. Look at this volume. This is the second highest volume day you have had on the stock, right? So that's pretty substantial. You draw this line across and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, this propelled you through the 50-day and the 21-day. To me, that means institutions are buying this. I haven't read the report. I was busy today. But that's definitely something to keep in mind if you're moving like that through that. So that's definitely, for me, something that I'm, interested in. I would want to see follow through. If we get follow through on this and get through this wick, I will definitely be interested in it. And, we could look at the weekly on this because it might get some color. Yeah. So see your bottoms here and your tops here. I mean, look at this. You almost have a bullish engulfing. Almost. Right? I mean, technically, some people that look at bar charts are going to tell you have a bullish engulfing, right? Because they're going to tell you you're here and you're here, right? And some people that are real technical with bullish engulfing are going to say it doesn't have to be the body of the move. It can just be the bar itself, in which case you have a bullish engulfing. That's not how I view them. I want to see the bodies. But you're darn close to that, aren't you? I mean, you're really close to encapsulating all that past week with this move. And so you may have bottomed here. And I would really watch that. Here was the classic undercut of that bottom that we talked about before. So let's just watch what transpires here. A higher high through this wick would put us where? Right at the top of this. We'd be breaking this 146.51 level. You break 146.51, you get through 147, you're going to see a lot of buying coming into this name. People are not going to want to miss out on this. Keep that on your list. So this I would just watch. I actually have a short position in this. I know that you look at this chart and go, wow. I just don't think that, retail should move like this. Now, what I think is going to happen and what is going to happen are two different things. But look at that. Okay. So from this doji, which is a long leg doji like we went through yesterday, right? Remember when I explained long leg dojis in the newsletter? And this is just irrelevant. It's just a spike. So that's why my line is here. And then I use this, and you can see where it's resting, right? It just happens to hit this long-legged doji, which, why is this line important? It's important because that became your breakout bar here. That's why I use that point. Here was the open. Here was the close on the week, right? Fits perfectly, okay? Now, just to put it in perspective, if I'm here and I'm here, right, it doesn't fit as well. And it's not touching where it needs to touch. It needs to be including these previous points to show where the trend is. So that's why the line's drawn the way it is. And that's as close as I'm going to get. I'm not going to move it back down for 2 seconds. But so what does that tell me? Actually, I am, because now it's going to bother me that I said that. So what's going to happen here? I don't know. I think it rejects. I do not see Dillard's going parabolic. So I have a short position in it right now. This is a monster move out of a break. And I'm not looking for this to collapse. I really am just looking for it to come down 10, 15 points. That's really all I'm looking for there. It could very well run. I just am not. I think you're going to see something like this happen on it. And, we'll see what happens. But the reason I wanted to show it is this was a great breakout. It was excellent buying this off the open and then running with it. Congratulations to those that did. So FUBU, I like, but I just want to walk through something. Like FUBU had the better action this morning, and then UPST just changed course completely. But see, you broke down here and then you rallied, right? This is still good action, but we didn't get above a major resistance. And we didn't get above the previous low bar like we did on UPST. So, and this had great earnings. So I was a little disappointed by this move today. I'm pointing this out because if you don't get through this level, this key level here of $22, you really have to reevaluate your position here. And you might want to sell. That's why I have this on the list. So golf is just playing out perfectly. Let me just pull this here and drop this off. So what do you do with this now? Well, let's just look at what's happening here. So you have broken above this level after you're hitting its support. Resistance, resistance, support, breaks it, support, ready to go, closing at a new high. I mean, it's a very nice move. What do you do with this move? You wait for it to break this 53.40 level, right? Once it breaks 53.40, from there, you can just kind of really decide whether or not you want to be in it. But, it's a slow mover, and there is some resistance here. There's some resistance up here at the 55 level. So just be careful with this stuff. I understand this break. And I understand these moves, but it's a low beta name, so it really shouldn't move like that. And 55 might be a problem for it. GRWG, I just want to go through this very quickly with this one. I know people love this name. Just look at this. I mean, that's where you stop. That's where you keep stopping. Every support that became a resistance, it just keeps breaking. We need to break above one and hold this line. Today was the first day of doing that. See if you have a couple more days next week of follow through on that. This I really liked. It was presented to me today. It's not one that I played with at all today, but I really like the action. I like how, we've based for a period of time, broke out, consolidated, and we're breaking out again. And now we're closing at an all-time high. This is an all-time high close on this. So, but look at this. I mean, that is just, it's just textbook. It's beautiful. So I would like to have seen more volume on the breakout. Right now, if you see, I'm not even worried about this. If you see a follow through bar on this, this is probably going to keep going. And if this broke like this on this kind of buying, you could see a major push on this. This could go. So you really want to watch that 25 level, because if you break 25, it could really run. JMI, this is one that we were in back in November and did exceptionally well with. I think we actually got 100% out of it. The question is, what do you do now with it? I'm below the 200-day. My 21 is crossing. Okay. I couldn't really get anywhere today, and I have no volume. Well, I just would not be playing with this yet. There is a massive amount of damage done here. And there is just downward trend line after downward trend line. I mean, here's one. Here's one. Right? I mean, they're all over the place. I can do another one right here. So, I mean, there's just so much damage here, right? So why would I want to play with this? This needs to confirm to me something. And you might not want to wait for what it needs to confirm to me. So that's good. You can do whatever you want. But let's just get rid of all these lines. And let's get rid of all these indicators for a moment. And I'll tell you what I would like. I need to get above one of these humps. I need to get above one. So like I'm not really interested in this. And yeah, I mean, this is where I would get interested here. 33.64. See how it's here? Support, resistance. This line's of interest to me because that would be my first higher high since February, right? I mean, I'm down 70% in 2 months. I have no interest in that. None. When you're down that much, people are so beaten down. So L brands, LB, I mean, look, it's doing really well here. Not much to say. Retail's on fire. But again, where are you trading to? So you have to kind of look at your channel and say, is this brand stock going to go parabolic? And chances are that it's a brand that we're all familiar with. They own a ton of brands. Is it going to go parabolic? Not really. Okay, so you have about a 10-point move here. But I do think it's going to do it. I mean, you've based here for a good 2 months, and now you're getting ready to break out. So this can go. It's just going to be a slow mover, but it is setting up to go. I mean, you just closed at an all-time high, right? Let's go back to the weekly. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm on that all-time high, but yeah, I mean, you just got above the 63, and now you got, we just said 80. I mean, it's funny how that works out, but there's your line. I mean, that's where you're heading to. So I like it, but it's going to be a slow mover. This is your weekly on L. We might as well just do the weekly first on Lamb Research. Boop. And there we go. Perfect. So look at that, right? This trend line has been here for, months? And we just came right to the low of it this week, bounced off that trend line, and now we're up 50 points from there. Open, close on a hammer, but it's still a hammer. And on top of it being a hammer, what else is it, right? You have a wedge. And you never closed below your flagpole. Did you? Sure looked like you were going to, but it never happened on the weekly. Now let's go look at the daily. Now, we got way too much going on here. So we're going to get rid of all these horizontal lines. And we're going to get rid of this. So there's your channel, right? And so let me just draw this out a little bit further. So there's your channel. Okay. And then from here, now this is exactly what you're looking for. Okay. This is not a perfect Morningstar pattern, but you see how you broke down, then you ran right to the top of this, and then you opened right at the top, and then you kept going. That's what you want to see. Then you could throw in your bells and whistles and say, oh, good, we did it above the 50-day. We're heading right for the 21-day. Then we're going to here. I mean, when we start clearing levels like this is doing, that lets you know that you need to be in this. And I saw a lot of very good stuff in the semiconductors today, and it's why I put the SOXL in the back of the newsletter. And I could be wrong, and we might not have bottomed, but I believe we're turning so fast now that you have to put some money to work, even if you're not doing full position sizes and you're doing 1/10 of the position size. So what? At least you're making progress. That's the one thing that people have to understand. You can change your position size. Again, this went right through the 50-day after closing below it for 2 days. That tells you you're seeing institutional ownership. And where'd you close? Right at the pivot point. Let's go look at this on the weekly, and I think we'll be pretty surprised, right? Look at this. Boom. But guess what you didn't do? You didn't close below. Hold on. Let me get to that level and make sure I'm right. Yep. You did not close below, once again, the flag. And then here you are. So you came to the flag, tested it, and guess what happens next week, right? If you get over 590, this thing runs. I mean, it's a broken wedge on the flag. It'll go right to the top. It should go to the top of this. So this is setting up. Semis are setting up, in my opinion. Overstock, look, I just want to go through this. I know people love this name. I don't get it. I don't understand why this stock does not get the love that it wants. Looks like we traded this a while ago. Oh yeah, here. And we made about 20 points, 17 points on it. Well, we don't need that anymore. And we don't need all this text. We know this is Overstock. Let's get rid of these segment lines. And let's just focus on this. When you have a convergence like this, I don't like when they're basing, but this isn't basing. This is forming a rising wedge. It's not an asymmetrical triangle because these peaks aren't lower. They're higher and going higher as this is going higher. Okay. So let's just kind of go from here, put that in, right? Okay, and we can clone this. As always, people, you want to clone your lines as much as possible, okay? And just see where they fit the best if you find the line that you're looking for, because you want the same trajectory. No matter what, you want to keep the same trajectory or you don't have a true channel. So look at what's going on here. We're bouncing down. We're trying to break that channel. If you knock on a door loud enough, what happens? Eventually it opens up, right? So if you keep banging on this door, okay, eventually it's going to give. It's like anything else. If you keep seeing it hit and moving average, eventually it's going to go. It's a question of when, right? There's no such thing as a 1, 2, 3, let's call it 4 quadruple bottom. They don't exist. So this is setting up to roll. I'd be really careful here. Just the action. You are on the low end of this trading range. So if you did see a pattern that you were interested in here, you can attempt to buy this and see if it goes. A lot of shorts next week, if the NASDAQ runs, or people are going to get hit. And you could use this as your bottom, right? But just be careful of this, because once you break a rising channel, it's usually pretty vicious on the downside. And the fact that you can't even hold the 200-day is concerning. So you're really nothing definitive here, but I see a lot of risk. So Planter was one we got stopped out of, 90-cent loss. That just sucks, because I really think it's going to go higher. So we're going to, I'm going to just throw it out there probably as a short-term trade on Twitter. But when we get above that bar, that 20 and a quarter, I'll be buying it back. I know I will. I really think this has a lot of potential here. I think the ARC trades played itself out. Let me just go back to point this out. If you did not get out of this and you're trying to hold it for the longer term and you didn't use my stop from before, consider using $17. If you break the low of this bar, this reversal bar, right, but that encompass this bullish engulfing and all this buying, it's time to go. Peloton, look, we've been shorted. I've been shorted, I should say, and I've done quite well with it on the way down. And that's because of money management principles. It's really important to have a process. I keep trying to explain that. It's not just put the trade on and then leave it alone. You have to stay with the trade, look at it constantly, right? I mean, hopefully people are getting that. If you don't want to do that, my advice to you is never short a stock, because you need to watch. If you short a stock, you need to watch it pretty closely. You can get hurt way more in shorting than you can long. So when we broke down here and then we started to roll, for me, this is setting up to roll again. What needs to happen, and again, as people know from yesterday and the day before, I have no position right now in this. If you break above the top of this wick, you're done. This is negated. This bear flag has negated. If you roll here on this, okay, if you break down this wick, if you're long here and you break this wick, you're going to have a real issue, because that would signify that this flag is in play, and then that would at least take you back to $80. So just keep that in mind. You can roll. Now, if the NASDAQ starts moving up, which I think it's going to, there's a really good chance that that's not going to happen. Okay, that people that are in that still short are going to get squeezed. So the first goal, let's just walk through our first goal. Our first goal was to get above 323. Remember that from the newsletter? The second goal was to clear the moving average. This needs to happen fast. Guess what happened? It happened fast. Solid red volume, but it was not enough for a full bottom. Today was the second time in a week we had follow through. Watch the socks. Watch where it closes. We watched that today. We are bottoming. So I was very comfortable with my statement yesterday. And the one thing I really wanted to hammer home, and I hope I did, was this bar. I really wanted to explain this bar to people. So you opened here, right? Or you open here, I'm sorry. You close here. And the majority of this bar is just legs. Like picture this like a little body, and these are its legs, right? So that's basically called a long leg doji, right? Because you're right in the middle, and it's like all leg, right? So and that's all price rejection. That means people were like, I don't know if I want to buy. I don't know if I want to sell anymore. Okay, so we have indecision. Indecision is what we stated yesterday, and we've had a heck of a lot of it. What we did was get above this level. Now, not only that, but here was your real trigger, and I just wanted to see if it would hold, so we paid up. I needed 323. We opened at 322.61, and look exactly where we opened, right? Right on it. Boom. Got me above 323. The rest was golden, and that's why I put the Qs in the newsletter, TQQ. I think we've bottomed. I really do believe that. And, time's going to tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think we're setting up to roll higher. Now, you can roll up, come back down, test, base, and then go higher. But I don't think that we're going to see much more selling. Now, what I really need to see, and what we haven't seen, and what you have to think about with the Qs is, I have to put 2 or 3 days together where we go up. We haven't had that. We haven't had that in months. Right? You haven't had that since mid-April. I mean, the last time you had that was early April. So you haven't had that in over a month, 2 days of up, right? Just to put it in perspective, it's an issue. But I'm very comfortable with it. I think we've bottomed there. And there's a couple, I should probably go through that right now, why everybody's going to watch this. And tomorrow I do have a bunch of ideas that are more shorter term that are pretty volatile for tomorrow. We're going to do a video. It's Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let me just throw this in real quick so people can see this. So see, this bottom's here. See where this is here, right? You're not exactly there, but this and this are lower. This is higher, right? So it's something that you need to watch, but there's something a little more, right? Because I really would prefer this to be lower than this right now, because that would trigger a lot for me. But look at this. And this was today. And you really have to watch them this closely. This is pointing up. This is bouncing off the 30, which is oversold, but you need more than that. And we're breaking this line to the upside. Now, if we break this line to the upside, this can run. So let's keep that in mind. I'm going to spend about 2 minutes on this, or 2 seconds on this. The reason I have this in here is if you don't get above, if you're in this, and this is REKR, if you're in this, you need to really reevaluate what you're doing. You had a massive red day. You tried to hold. You couldn't hold. I don't know what you're looking for here. All this red or all this green volume couldn't keep it above the 200 day. I understand you're oversold, and I just want to point something out. People always say, oh, when the RSI is below 30, it's time to buy. Okay, well, if you did that, right, you were buying here. right? $12. You're at $9 now. It doesn't work that way. So, you have to watch this. There's a pattern to it. So I would be very concerned here. Now, could this trade up and gap fill some? Absolutely. But I would not be chasing this. And if I took out a lower low, I'd be getting out of it. So Riley, I'm just going to run through very quickly because I was asked about it. Okay. This is getting negative, the RSI, but we're holding that 21 day. As long as you're holding the 21 day, I think you're fine. I don't think it's something that you really need to worry about. Just stay with the trade. I think it looks great. So, and let's just keep rolling through these. SE, look, you went right to the 200 day. You didn't break. We talked about this yesterday, right? We needed to break. Now, instead of breaking, what is developing, right? Let's just put this right here. Okay, so if I'd broken this and came down, I'd have a double bottom. So this might have a little more to go. Might have to test again. But I would not buy this. It needs to prove itself. So SENS, let's just go through this very quickly. The reason I have this one in here is I just want you to watch this 21 day. See it here, here, can't break above it. You need to watch that. If it SENS, if it doesn't break that 21 day, do not buy it. It does seem to me that you may have bottomed. I do like this undercut. I do like how we undercut there and then went higher. So this is in the newsletter now, 32.25. I really like the action. I like how we hit here twice. We didn't break it. We took out a higher high. There is a lot of issues here. We have this issue at 34.5. We have this peak at 36.5, which takes us to the 50 day and the 21 day. So there's a lot of stuff we have to deal with before we get back to this 42 level. But I think we're there. I do. I think we're there, and I think it's worth taking a shot on, and that's why we did it. I just want to show this today. So, people are always like, what's a gamma trade? And it's basically, the easiest way to explain is when you just basically have the shorts completely locked in, and that's what they did today. Just look at this, right? I actually know somebody that was short this and buying puts the whole day, like lotto puts, and he was just kept waiting for it to break, and obviously it didn't. I went through this in the newsletter. I actually did. Let me turn that off so I don't have to hear it again.
Market data connection reestablished.
My little British guy on one of my platforms. So what I want to do here is just let me go to this one. Hold on 1 second. I just want to explain this. So essentially, they're just trapping the shorts, and that's what they did all day long. Every bar was just up to the end of the day, till they want to just lock in their gains. And it's basically what it is on a gamma trade. It's just, a hot potato who's going to be last. And it's usually the end of the day when they just blow it out, right? And this probably goes down on Monday. There is news on it. I get it, but the reason that it did what it did was because they could squeeze it, and they looked at where they could squeeze it. And so they buy the calls against it and they move it up. And then this one, WDC, moved in tandem. It's why I put them on there in the news, on Twitter. I was going to say newsletter, but that's it for the trades. They were decent trades, but it is what it is. I'm not in that any longer. So TDOC, look, you're below the 200, the 50, and the 21, but you're so far off, you're due for a bounce here. And what you're starting to see here, we can actually do a bunch of stuff here because we really don't need all these horizontal lines, and we certainly don't need these indicators right now. We know where they are. So what's happening here is just, see how you're just dropping and dropping, and we went through this. I said 150 at first, and then I said 125 or 127. I forget where the level was. We had a level here that we talked about. It was there, right? Yeah. I thought we had another one, but it must have been that level. So we talked about when you break these levels, what was going to happen, and it did it. Okay. What do you do now? Well, you're only going to go so low. The company's not going out of business, right? So the issue becomes, what do we do? Well, you're starting to see it slow down. We're not going straight down anymore. Now we're starting to get green days. Well, what does that mean? It means that you have people that are stepping in and that they're buying. That's what we like to see. So I would wait for some kind of turn here for this to show me that it's really going to do that. You could even use something, because this is going to be a short-term long trade, right? And it could go up when ARK goes up because she's been buying the heck out of it. But you could even argue that you want to just wait for a 5-8 moving average crossover when you're down this far and wait for it to get above these and then for these two to cross, and that could be your trigger. I wouldn't buy this until you see something like that. I'd want confirmation. I want confirmation on everything after today. Today was definitely a turnaround day. So on Tiger, I want to just go through this. I like the action today, and I'm going to leave this on the 5 to 8 so we can talk about it a little bit and how to use this. You can see when these 5-8 crossovers come on after the stocks are down or up, they actually do work. They are pretty prophetic about which way we're going to go. And these look like you're going to cross up. If they do cross up and you're still under the 17 line when that happens, I do think you can get to $20, $21. But, this cannot get above 24 for whatever reason. And we've been talking about that 24 level forever. It's all the way back to here. Let's close these up. So that 23.89 level, we've been talking about it forever. It just cannot get above it. It really can't. So you need to be aware of that. Could this be a perfect, get rid of the indicator so we can just really drill into this. Could this be a perfect morning star? Absolutely on the weekly. It could be perfect, right? See this bar's down, come here. Now I've got this, dragonfly pattern right here, right? All of a sudden I break above this. If I break above this, what would that number be? 1705, call it 17 and a quarter. Might be worth a shot. 17 and a quarter, and then what you're shooting for is 21 and a quarter to complete the morning star pattern. That very well could happen for those that are interested in trying it. So this was pretty clear. I mean, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on TQQ. We just went through the Qs. They trade in tandem, and this is why I put it in there, 95.50. Closed at 96, same exact pattern that you see on the Qs, just accentuated. And I think that you have a couple lines here that you're going to have issues with. But I do think that we are bottoming, and I think that we are seeing that. ZIM, I was asked to look at. This was one we had in the newsletter and did fairly well with in a really tough tape. Looks like we had a 55% gain. And this was our target on it. And then I just used this, right? This level, if we rolled back into it as a stop, then we used, once you broke this level, that was it. I'm going to show you something that you should be able to utilize. So you see this trend line here? What happens if I take this trend line and I just follow it? Okay. What happens if I take this trend line and I just follow it? Okay. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this, hopefully. So in other words, these trend lines, right? And let's get rid of this one. And we'll get rid of this one for a moment. So we can just talk about this so you can learn. And we'll get rid of the target. So once you break these trend lines, right? This becomes support. See how it was support from here, hits here, finally breaks, tries to get through it, doesn't, touches it, bonk. So these flip just like support and resistance lines flip. And that's exactly what's transpiring here. This has become resistance. So you really don't want to buy this until you get above this. And quite frankly, you have some other stuff going on here that you just need to be aware of. Like you have this here and you're breaking above it, but you really need to get above this. I would not chase this here at all. And I just wouldn't do it. And finally, the last one we're going to go through today, and if it's not of interest, this is where you can bow out, is Zoom. And I really am hoping that this is finally it. I really like the action. I like the open and close action in particular. And let's really get into this because it's pretty cool. So you opened at the low, closed at the high. What did you do here? Opened at the low, closed at the high. What did you do differently here that we haven't seen? We had follow through. When was the last time we had follow through on this stock? Like it just has not happened to this magnitude with bars like this, right? It hasn't happened since like back here. So I'm hoping that that's going to give us some kind of sign. Now, though, in the indicators, here's a 5-8 moving average crossover right there. Here's a really simple way to trade this, okay? You could buy this on a higher high, right? And you could use this low as your stop. So your stop would be 293, and you 310 high. So it's wide, but that's what you're going to have to do with this one. You're going to have to keep it wide. And you went to this 278 line. You see this? This was our major support. From back here, we had this one in. We opened below it. We never looked back. We retested it and held it. And now we're here. This is setting up to move. How high it's setting up to move, I don't know. But from 308, 309, we get through 310. I could get to, forget this line because it's not relevant. And this is dead because it's already broken. So what's next, right? Because it was they were both minor lines. That's why. They're not major lines. That's why they don't hold the same significance. So where is the support on this or the resistance on this? 350, 347.40. Like this could head back to here. It was just there end of April, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. So it can do that. So that's it in a nutshell. Please comment. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I apologize, everybody. For some reason, I skipped over it, probably because I'm so annoyed. UPST. So I did a live video today, this morning. I'm going to try and set them up and start doing them daily. I'm not formally saying I'm going to do it yet because I have to schedule my day a little bit better, but I'm going to try and carve out 15 minutes to a half hour every morning. And I'll just start blasting out when on Twitter. And then please click notifications on here for it, but as well. But let's go through this because I was pretty adamant today when asked if I would buy this, and I said no. And I want to just get through this. Not everything that I say is going to happen. So if I have excellent money management principles and I'm right over 50% of the time, I will do exceptionally well. And this one went right in my face today as I was shorting it, and I still made money on it. So we're going to walk through this trade. And I want to walk through these levels that we talked about and what was going on and what transpired today. So we're going to get rid of all these indicators. And so this was pretty clear today where I was stating that this was where we were going to. I stated that yesterday, right? You come in today, this is the first hour. That's not going to be enough data for us. So I really going to have to go a little further down the data trail, right? This is what I'm looking for. So this was the line I was talking about. And I said, until we break this level, I'm not overly concerned. Okay. So we broke that level, right? So I'm like, oh, well, maybe this is going to go. And what do I have here? I have a doji bar with long legs. What does that mean? Possible reversal in trend. What's the trend? Well, the trend from here to here is down, right? So this is the most recent trend. So this might mean reversal. Okay. Now, I didn't want to go long this because every time I've gone long this, what happens to me? Right? Every single time I've been going long, what happens? If you spend all month going long this stock, you've gotten annihilated. Today was the first day that you made money doing it, right? So you can jump up and down that you stayed in the trade, right? Where maybe you got in it at 80, 90, and you finally got some money out of it, but you took a tremendous amount of risk if you just stayed in the trade. It's better to set levels and then honor your stops. You can always get back in a trade. So once we got, see this 94.57 level? Once we got through there, I became very interested in shorting the stock. So we got to this 96 level, and I want to show you where that fits in now. Because and you go through the timestamps on Twitter, you can see this. So if you go through this right here, that's where I shorted it. Okay, so that's where I shorted it on a 15-minute bar chart. Okay, and when I got to that level, that's the opening price of the previous day. Okay, just so we understand where. See how it's rejected there? Now, what does this pattern look like? This kind of looks like an evening star, right? Rejected, what are wicks? Price rejection. I have two of them. The undercut was all I needed to see. I'm like, man, we can't get above that. That's it. Short it. So I drilled down on a much shorter time frame chart, right? Something like this. And I'm like, we're rolling. We can't hold it. Boom. That's it. Short it. And that's what I did. So very simply, let me just go to a 5-minute now. So very simply, once that transpired, I'm short the stock. Now I get to this level and it holds, and then it breaks, and then I get to this level. And then you can see where I say, I keep moving my stop down because I'm not confident, right? I'm not 100% confident that I'm right because I got through this level and the market looks strong. So I'm playing with tighter stops because reversals can happen, and they could be nasty. And I don't want to lose money. I like making money, not losing it. So when it got down to here, I was very adamant, trim again. And then, my stop was the high, and then I moved my stop to my cost. And so I made money on the trade because of my process and money management principles. Now, in hindsight, do I wish I bought it here? Yeah, but there was nothing there that was going to tell me that it was going to go. Now, when it got to this level here, tested here, failed, and it looked like it was going to do it again. Okay, there's no such thing really as a triple top. It's very rare, right? So whether you see it in a 15-minute, a 5-minute, a daily, a weekly, a monthly, it's irrelevant. Right? The pattern's the pattern. So once I got through this, that's why I announced online, I'm like, hey, this is going to go higher. And it did. It went higher. I did not buy this. I was in a bunch of other things today, and I just felt like I was going to get whipsawed. And, that's my mistake for not doing it, but whatever. I mean, there's tons of trades out there. And I want to say that, don't tie your ego to a trade. I'm trying to figure out the right way. I could care less that I wasn't in this on the upside. Would I like to be? Sure. But there's 100 trades a day. Instead of me worrying about this trade and what was going to happen, this was the easiest trade of the day. I mean, look at this move, right? So there's a bunch of stuff like that you really have to take into account. But where I'm going with this and what I want you to understand is, even being wrong on the full direction during the day on a stock that was up from 86 to 103, I shorted it and made money. So it doesn't really matter the direction as long as you understand money management principles and process. Now, I could have shorted it here. It could have reversed, taken me out, and then I would have lost a little bit of money, but I would have covered right away. So that's the point of it. So to get to UPST, what do you do now with it? Look, everybody has to make their own decision with this. This is a nasty, nasty red bar. This was a nasty red bar. The fact that you bounced today, I'm very happy for you, but you closed right on the 50-day and stopped. So theoretically, this bar, after you bounce here, open here, theoretically, this bar can go to 115 now. It can fill that whole pattern out. That can happen. So I have nothing convincing me one way or another of this. If I went above the 50-day, you're probably going to have more follow through, because who's ever short this, if you're short from here and you're short from here and you have no money management principles, right? So just think about it logistically. You came in here and you're short and you're doing your little dance, right? You're all excited because today's the day we're really going to break. And then some news comes out. And then we open here and you're like, well, that's not that bad. I mean, I was here and, I'm short in the 90s and that's not that bad. And then it starts breaking levels. You see where I'm going with this? And then you start rationalizing, like I talked about in the newsletter. You start talking to your buddies. Are you still short? Yeah, it's going to go lower. Okay. And now you're up. Now, how could this cause the most amount of pain? By opening up on Monday, right? And then the longs, people going long, the shorts covering, and then dropping back down to the 50-day. So you kind of have to think like that a little bit. But that was the UPST trade. I hope that was helpful. We can go over it more tomorrow if you would like in greater detail when we do the live. That's all I have for tonight. Everyone enjoy their Friday, and I hope to see you tomorrow.